Hey, so hopefully if you're here, you're wondering what are the 5 mistakes that we see that buyers make so that you can avoid them, or if you're just curious. Also, someday, hopefully most people here will be a buyer of some sort or a seller. Good to know what are the mistakes that we see kind of time and time again. And I'm Megan Brenwhite. I am an associate broker and the head of the Upstate real estate team. We're with Keller Williams Realty, Hudson Valley North. And, I feel like I always want to preface these by saying that our team does a lot of volume. So we have, I think around 140 deals that are happening in 2021 already, closed or pending, or sides of deals to be totally exact. So that means we are working with 140 different sets of clients, circumstances, attorneys, bankers, houses, locations, all that. So we get to see a lot of things, both from the perspective of the working with buyers, which we have a team of dedicated buyers agents who that's all they do is just work with the buyers. They search for homes, they help them negotiate, they help them put in a great offer. And then we have a separate team that works just with listings, just like finds great homes, gets them online, gets them to market, gets them sold. So I think that it's like kind of important to think about, when I was thinking about this topic or why I wanted to share is that we kind of see mistakes that buyers make from both perspectives, both from the perspectives of seeing tons and tons of offers coming in on the listing side and seeing which offers get refused, which offers get accepted. And I think that, there are definitely some, clear trends. And I'm just writing down one more bonus mistake that I want to put. Okay, good, got it. Wrote it down in my notes here. There are definitely some trends that we see, both like working with buyers and also as on the listing side, looking at the offers that are coming in. So I wanted to jump in here and just start to talk about some of them. And, we'll have time for questions. Feel free to ask questions in between. Also, I love when this is like a dialogue. That's great. So I think step number 1 is not understanding the process. So that's a mistake that we see. And that's a mistake that we see. And sometimes we don't even, you don't even realize why something is going wrong until you realize, oh, this person just didn't understand how this works. And where I can see that, for example, is a lot of people just kind of see a house on Zillow and they click, I want more information about this house. And then they get, then Zillow puts them in touch with 4 different agents who all text them and they go, oh, this is great. This is who I should get in touch with. That is not generally the best approach to finding an agent. And how things work in this area in most of the country is that there are multiple listing services. All agents belong to these, and all agents can show all homes on Zillow or Trulia or wherever. If it's there and it's not listed as for sale by owner, and sometimes even if it is listed as for sale by owner, any agent can show it. That's why it makes sense, I think, to work with, this is the biggest process thing that I think people don't understand. It makes sense to find an agent that you like, that you vibe with, that you really trust, and then just stick with them, like work with them. They will be thinking about you. They'll be sending you things, sometimes off-market things that you wouldn't get to see otherwise. They're going to just kind of help you grow and understand your needs as you're going through the process. And the other piece of this that people don't understand is that the commission for the agent who would work with you is already baked into the seller's side, essentially. So this gets a little bit confusing, but essentially the seller, when we go to list a home, we say to the seller, this is our total commission, and this amount of the commission will go to the buyer's agent. Any buyer's agent who brings it gets this part of our commission, or gets this part of the commission. So basically, and I think that people think they're going to get like a good deal if they go directly to the listing agent. There are reasons to go directly to the listing agent. Getting a good deal is not one of them. So if you bring the buyer, like let's say you're the listing agent and you find a buyer, that becomes usually what's called dual agency. There are some other options. And then that agent keeps both sides of the commission. So you're not like saving money. Like they don't go, oh, great, I found the buyer. So like, dear seller, you get to just take it right off the price. And even if they did, like, even if they were like, we're going to forego our commission because we found the buyer, the seller would probably be like, great, more money for me. So I think that's one of those like weird things that comes up a lot that I find out about later from people. Like these are not people who work with our team, obviously, but I'll be talking to people and they'll go, I just went on Zillow and I just like clicked, give me info, and I just got paired with somebody. And like, I didn't have the greatest experience, but I thought that's what I'd have to do. Or else we do sometimes have people call us on listings and they say, I'm only going to work with a listing agent because I don't want to work with a buyer's agent. I don't need that kind of representation. And I'm like, why on earth would you not want somebody working with you? Even when we have dual agency on our team, even when we have a buyer who our team finds working with a seller, that's one of our listings, we still have people who are working just to help the buyer get through that transaction. As transaction coordinator, we're going to answer questions. We're going to like make sure that they get into the house whenever they need to. We're going to make sure that they have a place to go if they have questions 6 months down the road. Like, I don't know why you would ever not want that. So that to me is like, those are the two biggest, like not understanding the process. And what I would say is that we've created like 1 billion YouTubes by now that are, or Zoom chats that are now videos on YouTube. You can certainly watch them. The other thing is, I mean, I put the link for the upstate.me/new buyers. If you, that is not like a commitment, to fill out that questionnaire is not, does not like sign you up with us officially as your agent. So if you want to just have a conversation with one of the agents on our team about like, how does this work? Or just call like anybody and ask how it works or Google it. Because it works really different than, I know I was coming from Brooklyn and it just worked really differently. Like there was not a strong multiple listing service when I was looking, and it was just like, it felt like you had to go to open houses, you would meet the listing agent there. It was a really different process. So some of those assumptions can hurt you. So mistake to avoid. Understand the process better, do a little bit more homework for the specific area that you're searching in. And up here, so we cover roughly 8 or 9 counties. And actually, weirdly, there are differences. Like in Dutchess County, the listing agent really often is there when a home is being shown. A lot of other counties, they're not, because they're rural areas. It could be an hour to drive to it, et cetera. Mistake number 2, I would say, is not being clear about your goals. So this is like a real existential question. So this is, and this is really hard. It's really hard, but like we really try, and like when we're working with buyers, this is a lot of the work that we do at the beginning and throughout the process to be like, why do you want this house? Why do you want this house? Why do you want to be upstate? Why do you want this house? Like, how is your life going to look different if you make this purchase? How is your life going to change if you move from house A to house B? Like whatever it is, because that's the stuff that's like super important. And what we see is that when people aren't that clear, or when there are 2 parties or more deciding together and they don't have a shared goal, it just ends up being kind of a mess. It ends up being like you take a step and you go, yeah, when they take another step. So for example, somebody could be like, I want to be somewhere really rural. And maybe the partner is like, yeah, but I want to be like 10 minutes to like a coffee shop. Well, I mean, you might find something that's really rural that's 10 minutes to a coffee shop. That's possible. So they're not like totally mutually exclusive, but even knowing even being clear, like what does being 10 minutes to a coffee shop mean to the second person? Is it because they like love coffee? You can make coffee at home. Is it because they want to see people? Does being near a coffee shop imply some level of like community? Like what does it mean? Because then there are other ways to find all of those things than being 10 minutes to a coffee shop. Or maybe you realize you could be 20 minutes to a coffee shop if another priority kind of becomes more important. So this is the thing that like, it's like we're working on the mission for our business and marketing and all these different things right now. And it's like, you have to start with a clear mission. Otherwise it's very hard to test everything against it. Like how important are the finances? Like, is this, when you buy a home, do you want to be able to Do you want to be able to sell it within 2 years? Do you want to buy something that you think will really appreciate? Do you want to buy something that you're going to rent out some of the time? So it's just like all of those things. And basically being clear about the goals also means prioritizing them. That's the truth. So you want to like be like, okay, all of these things are important to us. And notice I'm not saying I want a mid-century modern home, 3 bedrooms, whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm actually talking about what, like the first step, which is like, what will buying this home do for you, basically? And then you prioritize it. So the third thing that I think is true, which is really related, is not learning throughout the process. So that is like a mistake that we see. So like, it's weird. Like you see some people kind of just like make the same mistake again and again. Like they find a house that they love, that's perfect. And they just like put in an offer that's too low because they're like, this is the right price. You know, they could afford more. Maybe the house has been underpriced. That's actually one of the more common ones that we see where you're like, gosh, this is like kind of painful to watch this happen again and again. Like you're not going to get lucky in this market. We can find you houses that are cheaper. You can always adjust your budget, but not learning about the process and being like, okay, when there are 10 other offers, putting in an offer at ask with financing, it's not even worth doing generally. I mean, you could do it like once, but like 5 times, not so much. Along the same lines, I think, is like, especially like when you're looking at houses, well, even before you look at houses, they say the online, you know, looking at a home online is actually the first showing, basically. So like really look at the house and look at it on Google Maps and look at it on satellite view and just be like, you know, I really thought I wanted to be rural. Now I'm looking at this, it kind of freaks me out, like how rural this is. So then you decide, I want to be rural, but I want to have neighbors within screaming distance, which is my term that I made up, which I think is like kind of where most people want to be. So it's like, because that's super useful information for you and for your agent. And each of these things, like as you're testing it, you're like, oh shoot, you know what? I don't really need 3 bedrooms, but I need 2 bedrooms and a good place to work. So a good place to work could be like, maybe there's a sunny walkout basement, or maybe there's a little shed, or maybe there's an office. It's not a bedroom. All of a sudden you open up, you know, tons more options. So I think that's it. So that requires like all of this stuff, like understanding the process really requires some research and some curiosity, I would say. Being clear about your goals requires some introspection and sometimes some difficult discussions. You know, I mean, that's true. It's like, I love old homes with character. My husband loves totally modern houses. Like that is like never going to be like, we're never going to come together on that. But I like old homes with character less than he likes modern houses. Like for him, he could not live in an old home with character. We've tried. He's like lost his marbles. He needs like clean, whatever. So that's fine. So now we're like not looking at like old homes with character, you know. We had to have like some introspection and some conversation about that. And that's through learning too. So learning, I would say even being open to learning, not just throughout the search process, but even after you've bought something. I mean, I don't even know how many homes I've bought, but I actually don't know how many homes I've bought by now, but let's just say it's more than 5, less than 30, you know, kind of thing. And, well, probably more than 10, less than 30. And each time I've bought a place, I've lived somewhere, I've learned more about what I want and what I don't want. So I think that's also important to know, is that I think particularly when you're buying a house for the first time and you're buying in a different area, it's really hard to get it right the first time. You know, like you can be okay, but like the learning continues even after you've closed and you've bought the home and you're like, oh dang, I actually really want to be closer to a grocery store. And then you decide, is that thing a deal breaker for you? And if it is, then in a few years you sell it and you're like, great, next time I buy, I want to be like close to a grocery store. I want a laundry room upstairs. I want to be 30 minutes closer to the city. I want to be whatever, whatever it is, you kind of stack up all of these things. I'd never want to leave the community that I'm in, whatever it is, you're learning. And I think that's really important. So I think that if you have the attitude that you're going to be learning throughout the process and that you're going to be learning even after you've bought the home, I think everything that kind of becomes a hassle also becomes easier to stomach. So like if you lose a couple multiple offer situations, you're like, great, I'm learning. This is like, I'm learning. If you buy something and the inspection goes like really badly, like, and you have to back away from it, you're like, great, I'm learning. Or the inspection goes pretty well, but there's some things that like you have to compromise on. It's like, you're still just learning. And I think that that's really important. That's how we treat this business a lot, is like, as long as you're like, I'm learning about everything, then every problem kind of becomes an opportunity to learn, which sounds very Pollyanna-esque, but is true actually. So, and that kind of ties into number 4, which is, I think a lot of buyers think very short term, like, what do I want right now today? What can I afford today? What does my life look like today? So it's sort of a weird thing, because I really do think it's okay to like buy like a starter home, not even just in terms of financially, but just like, I don't know, this looks like good enough. Like, I'm going to be able to enjoy being upstate. I'm going to be able to like go hiking and get, go on fun weekend trips. But also like, I don't maybe know 100% what I want yet in terms of how big of a house or whatever, because this is just so different from how I live now. So I think that thinking short term, like if you think longer term, it's like, for one thing, it makes, in my mind, it makes the price today a lot less important. And that's not true. Like, so if you're flipping a house, obviously, if you're like, buy a home and you're like, the intent of buying this home is to buy it, renovate it, and sell it within the next 12 months, like you have to be hyper focused on every dollar. But if you're not, then if you're like, we're going to be here at least 2 years, probably we're going to be here 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, whatever it is. Like, it's not, then that like 10,000, maybe 20,000, maybe even $50,000 that you're going to like be paying more, more than maybe your budget, or more than you think this house is worth, or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter as much, like, because not because that money doesn't matter. That's, those are real amounts of money, but because the market will change in that time period. And so that's where like, I've said many times that I think it's very hard to imagine appreciation, and it is. And I was just talking to my chiropractor yesterday, who every time I get like a whole history of like the real estate in this area. It's amazing. He's from Kingston and he's been interested in real estate forever. So he's like, and then there were these tax auctions and blah, blah, and then you could buy this house here. And I was the first person to do this. And he talked also about how it's like, it's so impossible. It was impossible for them to imagine homes even getting to like $500,000 in places like Stone Ridge. And now that they're over $1 million, it's impossible for it to imagine to get to $2 million or 1.5 million. But that could be where we're going, and there are signs that would indicate that. But the truth is, like, if you're not, like, we don't know is basically my point. So the price that gets determined today is what gets determined today based on how attractive is that house for current tastes, who's marketing it. Honestly, there's a lot of places with bad photos that get lower prices than they should, and that's real. A bunch of different factors. So it's just like thinking like giving a little bit more space around the transaction and being like, I don't know, what could this look like in 5 years? What could this look like in 2 years? Or maybe it's even like you've always wanted a house, I don't know, with a pool or something, and it's a 2-year wait list for a pool. That seems impossible right now, but the 2 years come and go pretty quickly. Like, I remember when our landscapers planted trees and they were like, yeah, it's going to be about 7 years till they grow to the point where we want them to look. And I was like, 7 years? Like, that's ridiculous amount of time. Like I could be dead 10 minutes from now, you know? And now it's like 5 years and these trees are way big. And I just had to wait a little bit. So I think that longer term thinking can be really helpful. Just at least like get you out of the like mindset of like, what does my life look like exactly like today? And like, is this thing perfect for me today? And it just sort of like gives you a little bit more space. And the last one kind of relates to this also, which is the other mistake that we see buyers making is comparing the houses that they're seeing to the prices that they were, or like houses that their friends got, or houses that are like in a totally different country, you know, or whatever. And that, you know, compare and despair was like a little phrase for a reason. Like you can't, like, we cannot turn back time. We cannot. So looking at a house and going, this is $700,000 now. They bought it for $250 2 years ago, did barely any work. Well, if you're being told by your agent that there are 10, like let's say your budget is $900,000. You see a house at $750 and they bought it for $250 2 years ago, did almost no work to it. You could afford it. It's perfect for you. If you get fixated on that weird number, you're comparing it with like a different time. And for whatever reason, that house now is popular. Like maybe the style became more popular. Maybe they did something really simple, just like painting. Maybe they have a better agent. Like, I don't know. I mean, the market prices have gone up a lot for sure, but there are some that are just disproportional. So going like, I'm not giving that person, you know, a penny more than 700 because they bought it for so cheaply. It's like, that doesn't matter. Like you cannot compare your current situation with their situation way back when. So all you have to say to yourself is like, hey, like, what is this house worth to me now? My budget's 900, this is 750. The agent's telling me there are 10 other offers that have already come in. That shows that the market value is probably over 750. So you put in an offer, maybe you put in an offer of 825 and you get something that's below your price. Like I used to look, when I lived in Brooklyn, I would look at the prices of brownstones in like the 90s. That is not a good activity. It just is not. I would be like, oh my God, I could have bought like an entire beautiful brownstone in Fort Greene for like $110,000. And you know what? That didn't make me happy. It did not. It did not make me fulfilled, and it did not help me buy anything. The only thing that it did make me do is just learn that like it's really hard to guess appreciation, that those people buying it at 110,000 at the time, people thought they were taking a risk. That's why it was priced at that. They were taking some kind of a risk. But at that time, I guarantee you that nobody thought that those brownstones would be worth $3 million today. Like maybe they could have believed 500,000, you know, but like $3 million would have been like just impossible for our brains to imagine. And it's the same thing. Like if you see a house that like, I don't know, like your friend has a house with a creek and you like can't find a house with a creek, that sucks, you know, like it's annoying. Like if you, and if you go back to step number 2, or like, you know, like of understanding your goals, like maybe one of your goals is to feel really peaceful in your home. And like, you want more peace in your life and more connection with nature. And for you, like a creek is the thing that's going to do it. So then that's cool. You can get a house on a creek. If your budget is 300,000, you're just going to have like a, you know, crappier house than if it doesn't have a creek, you know, and that's fine. But like, again, this goes back to knowing your goals. That's fine. What you can't do is be like, oh, my friend has this like amazing, gorgeous house on a creek and they bought it for like 350 and now I want that. It's like, well, that ship has like kind of sailed in most areas here. So it just doesn't help. And the other thing that's kind of weird about buying places up here is that because everybody looks in a really big area and there's all kinds of great locations that you could actually buy something in, often your friend or somebody you see online or whatever has bought something in like an area that's way cheaper. Like maybe it's 45 minutes further from the city. So you're like, oh my God, how is there like this amazing mid-century modern with mountain views for like $425? It's like, I mean, first of all, if you're doing this activity online, this is like a whole, thing about social media, but if you're doing this activity online, you don't know what's next to the house. Like it could be in a neighborhood with houses right next to it. It could be noisy. It could be on a road, a bunch of things. They could have had to put $100,000 into like a basement drainage problems, all kinds of stuff. And I think we do see that, like, and I know, again, like some of these are just like, whatever, this is more like philosophical than practical, I guess, in some ways. But I think that we do see people who are like, who get kind of fixated on like, this is what I want and this is what it should cost. And that's not like, that's hard to, sometimes that can be hard to find. Like if you're like, this is what I want, how much, work with your agent, like how much you think I would need to spend on what I want. And then you might have to change some of your priorities to get it into your budget. But being like, I want a lakeside house, perfect condition, 2,500 square feet, 4 beds, 3 baths, and I don't want to pay more than $250. Like you can't necessarily get that. And so we see people kind of just, I think that it's for these reasons. And basically, I think what we're seeing right now is first of all, I think there are fewer buyers looking now. So that is good news. The buyers looking now are more like intrepid. They're like, everybody is tired of hearing how like this market's like up and up and up and up and up. So the buyers that are looking now, we still as a team have like a 65% rate now of accepted offers to offers submitted, which is, I wish it was like 90, but like in this market when there's like 12 offers for most of the good, like the good houses that come out and like get a big splash right away, that is a pretty damn good ratio. So we see a lot of people kind of backing out of the market and being like, I don't know, like, will it get cheaper? Maybe it will. No, a lot of people, but let's just say it's like it feels a little tempered in terms of like how many people are writing us and like, I need to find a house today. And I think that people, and we hear people saying that they're like, I don't know, like kind of like we hear people all the time saying, I wish I had looked a couple years ago. And to me, that's like, it's like, that's kind of a problem of comparing. But I mean, I wish I'd looked a couple years ago kind of fits into everything in a way. It's like, it doesn't have to do with the process, but what are your goals today? Like we're in 2021, July, like what are your goals today? And then thinking about the longer term, like what does this look like for you over the next few years? As you go through the process, what are you learning? What are you learning about the fact that you wished you had bought a place 2 years ago? To me, I see people not learning when they say, I wish we bought it 2 years ago. We're going to wait another 6 months and see how it goes. That to me is like, that is a risky proposition. I would learn from that. Like I should have jumped in this market earlier and not waited for it to get a lot higher. I still think like if you want to get into the market, you can buy a house that fits most of your criteria. And then you have a foothold in the market. You have a place you can use, you have a place you can enjoy. You can like spend time out of the city, whatever you're trying to do with it. Live where you want to live. And then if you don't love it in 2 years, you just sell it. This gets back to like the learning. You just sell it, move on. If prices have gone up, you're fine. You have a house that's appreciated with the market. So fine. So the other house you're going to buy is appreciated too, but you'll be able to buy it because you'll have some equity in your house. If you don't buy it, you're going to, if prices go up, you're just going to be in a worse position. If prices go down, that's great. But if you buy a place and prices go down, it's not really that bad either if the ones you're buying are about to go down. So I just think those are kind of really like it's all the mistakes are much more attitude kind of than practice. We see practical things like, please God, do not like when the phrase like, oh, my aunt is a realtor and like Florida comes out of someone's mouth. You're just like, oh God, no, please, no. Like, so don't, sidebars, like don't take advice from like people who are not working in this market. Like, unless your dad is actually a home inspector, please do not take their advice on all things about home. I don't know what it is. I don't mean to be sexist, but it's like, we often hear like, oh, my dad looked at the report and you just know some like weird shenanigans are about to happen. So someone who's never like dealt with a septic system, not always, sometimes parents or loved ones or your aunt realtor in Florida can be helpful, but most of the time they're not. It's a different context. The other thing I would say is, I don't know, put this like in a polite way, but like maybe like try not to waste your agent's time. That's like how I would put it. So for example, if you tell an agent like, I'm not going to pay, you know, your budget is $650. There's a house that's listed at $650. The agent tells you there are already 5 offers on the table. They're going to highest and best on Monday. And you say, I'm not paying a penny over $650. Do not make them go to the house to show it to you. You're not getting the house. You're not, you know, like not when there's like multiple offers and everything else. It's just not like happening generally. So, I mean, there might be some weird situations where it would, but it's like so unlikely that it's generally not worth it. Not when particularly when your agent talks to the listing agent's like, yeah, this one's going way over. They know. Same thing about like if your agent sends you houses, like look at them for a minute. It sounds like stupid, but like really look at them and like do a gut check and be like, look on Google Maps and be like, is it really worth seeing this house? And if there are 2 stakeholders, have both people look at it so that you don't like drive to a house and be like, oh man, I always hated like homes with character. It's like, oh dang, why are we here? So I guess maybe the way to put it, better way, more politic, would be don't waste your own time. Because if you don't waste your own time, everyone will be happy. Because that's where it's sort of like weird. Like when as agents, we feel like people aren't trusting us and they're sort of just like, yeah, I'll see that. I'll do that. Whatever. Like, or like, it's kind of a weird mix of like, trust us, but also do a little bit of homework, you know, do a little bit of the work yourself of like thinking like, is this a house I really do want to see? Or, you know, is this a realistic one for us, given whatever kind of compromises we might have to make? So I don't know, those are my thoughts du jour. Does anybody have any questions or comments or anything that I missed? You could also feel free to ask a question on something totally different if you want. Nothing in the chat room. Oh, no questions. Thank you so much. All right. Well, good. Then if nobody has any questions, then I'll just wish you guys told the title search takes 3 to 4 weeks in Dutchess County. Does that seem right? It often takes longer. Actually, we assume sometimes more like 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the property. So the problem is not that, well, okay, so title and municipals often get like mushed together because they're part of the same process. The municipal search is based on the town, and that's when you go to the town, your attorney will go to the town and say, are there any building violations? Is there anything we need to know about this? Is there any like C of O issues, unpaid taxes, whatever? That completely depends on how busy the town is. So that is the problem. And that is town to town, it's not county to county. But what we're seeing still is that it's about 3 months from accepted offer to closing for a finance deal and 2 months, 6 weeks to 2 months for cash deal. Yeah. Yep. Sometimes it's quicker, but not. How available are lake houses in the Accord, Stonewood, High Falls, Rosendale, and Ellenville area? There are no lakes that I know of in those areas. So that would be not very available. I think there's one in Rosendale, but I can't think of what it's called, but it wouldn't be like one you would like boat on. Sullivan County has a ton of lake houses. So like look in like Wurtsboro, White Lake, well, like, I mean, anywhere, actually all of Sullivan County, pretty much, even like the northern part has a ton of lakes. And then some parts of Dutchess County also, but yeah, area right here, we don't have a ton of lakes. Well, there's like one lake also in Gardner, but those houses are like $3 million, but they're nice. All right.
I actually just did come up with a question. So I recently started working with one of your buyer's agents and was wondering, based on this dual agency that you mentioned, if we have any better shot at getting a home that is not listed by you versus one that is listed. Is there any, or just if you could talk a little bit about whether there's any advantages to working with the listing that you have or advantages elsewhere, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, technically you should never favor, like no agent should ever favor an offer that comes from their own team or from themselves. Like teams are pretty rare. So normally dual agency is like, I'm listing it and you're calling me as the buyer. So that's usually how it works. Things kind of weird on our team is that like legally we all count as like one unit. So if you're working with a buyer's agent and we have a listing, even though like maybe Danny's the listing agent and like Billy is the buyer's agent, like they still count as one person. For us, the sellers, I mean, we like doing that. So we tell the sellers that we like doing that. We tell the sellers at least like, we wouldn't, like, please don't prejudice against like any buyers that come through our team, because like we get very like quick lines of communication that way. And we know all of the agents on our team are totally like solid and locked down, and they know the process. And we have a transaction coordinator on both sides. So you basically have 4 people watching the transaction. I think in general, most agents are pretty good about not favoring offers, based on that. The one thing I would say, and we do tell people, like, if you're looking at houses that are like $150,000 or something, the commission is so low that I think that those agents would be more likely to look favorably upon a dual-sided transaction. So we kind of tell people, like, at that point, you might want to call the listing agent yourself, because then, then in case there is, like at the very least, they're going to make sure you get in to see the house, because they're also like working with you. Does that answer the question? I mean, it's basically, it's complicated. Like it shouldn't matter. And in our case, I don't think it matters because it's dual agency, but it does matter because the sellers trust the people on our team. So it's a little bit of a different thing.
That is in fact helpful. Thank you so much.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Okay, so we have a clause built into our contract limiting closing to a specified date. What if we don't make that? So my guess is that your contract, and it could be wrong, but most contracts say you're going to close, like, let's say it says you're going to close on August 10th, right? That is always, as far as I know, an on or about date. And it is not even a date that anybody cares about. Not that they don't care about it, but it's like the attorneys won't even talk about the real closing date until every single condition is fulfilled, until like the title reports and the municipal reports and all that stuff is there. If you get to the point where you're going beyond it, like there is a date in your contract, usually, that says when you have to get your mortgage commitment by. If you're getting a mortgage, that is a real date. 99.9% of the time, what happens is if you're getting close to that date, your attorney asks the other attorney to ask the seller, hey, can we get an extension on this commitment date? So that would be like, that comes up a lot right now because appraisals are taking a long time. So that's like one of the reasons that throws kind of that one off. But the actual closing date is like not really a closing date.
Megan, my name's Steve. Thanks a lot for that. It's actually an absolute no later than date that was written into the contract. So in that case, then, because if title search is delayed, since we have that no later than date in there, then does everyone go back to the negotiating table? Is that what happens?
I mean, I've honestly never seen that because it's so far out of your hands that I would be surprised your attorney would let you sign one that says that. But to me, it sounds like they could keep your deposit if it really says no later than. Did your attorney talk about that at all?
Yeah, no, the deposit would not be kept.
Okay.
And we did it because we absolutely have to move by then.
Oh, so you put the clause in?
Yeah.
Oh, got it. Wait, are you the seller? You're the seller.
Buyer, and it's a cash deal, so it's not like there's any contingencies.
Gotcha. I mean, if you're the one who put it in, they probably won't care if you have to change it. That's what I would think. But you're right, they would be technically be able to renegotiate. Oh, no, you know what? Let me take a step back. I'm not an attorney. That's actually the only answer that I should answer here, is that, like, look at Jen's face. Jen's like, please stop answering legal questions. One of the things that you learn as a real estate agent is do not answer legal questions like that. But like, yes, talk to your attorney. That's what I should say. But I don't know. That's such a rare thing that I've actually never come across it in a deal. But, you know, here's something that I will say that's related to this, is that one of the things that I think people underestimate is how important it is to have goodwill on both sides throughout the deal. And so like, this is like, I just want, like, this is why, like, if I have a chance, if I would recommend to a buyer, like, if you have a chance to pay $5,000 more and you can afford it, pay the $5,000 more to make, like, you want that bucket of goodwill overflowing by the time you get to contract. So if anything comes up, you're like, no problem. Like, oh, you need to close on a specific date. Great. We love you. Like, oh, you love that carpet. Amazing. No problem. So it's like, it's just like that. But yeah, I mean, closing deeds here, this is part of the process that is really hard. We had a situation, we had an attorney yelling at another attorney about a closing date that wasn't going to be met. And it's like, municipals are not in. There's nothing anybody can do. Like, you can't, it is nobody's fault but like the town's. So no one's at fault, but everybody is mad now. So it's tricky. I think that maybe also, so maybe apropos that about the process is like, another tip or whatever is just like, you know, ask your attorney, ask your agent questions the entire time, like, until you understand something. And then ask again. You know, I mean, I remember calling my agent, we were leaving Brooklyn and we had people moving into our place. We had tenants moving into our condo in Clinton Hill. And I would call my agent just like crying, like, how can people not give me any sense of when we're closing? And she's like, we are just in that period where we're waiting. We're like, literally nobody can do anything. It's like out of our hands. It's either in the appraiser or the title company, whatever. And I don't know, it just was like really hard for me to believe that that could be true, but it like genuinely is. So I guess if, you know, one of the things that we try and do with people is like at each part of the process, try and talk with them as much as possible about this is what this next phase is going to look like. And by the way, it's going to be frustrating and you're not going to be able to believe that you don't hear anything for 6 weeks, and we'll write you every week and tell you we have nothing to tell you. But that's kind of how it works. So, but most of the time, if you have goodwill built up, anything, or even like, okay, well, just not bad, well, then everything's okay still. You know, like sellers extend things, they shorten things, they keep the terms of the deal, they fix things that they didn't need to fix. It's usually, things are actually usually okay. That's the truth, is that as much as we see some like kind of yucky things in this business, like really most of the time we see people being really good humans. That's the truth.
Thanks, Megan.
Yeah, good luck. Everybody give Steve some like good vibes out there for a good closing, good quick closing. Anyone else? Anything else? Well, I commend all of you who are here learning and, you know, doing battle with the market right now. I will say, I was just talking to Angelica, our lead buyer agent, and we're just like, we have a Slack channel called Houses We Should Sell for like cute houses and or interesting houses, whatever. And I was like, we just posted, I mean, we just put like 20 new homes there yesterday, which is way more than usual. So I do think that like there is more coming on the market, which is awesome. And if you know anybody who wants to sell a home, please God, tell them to contact us, because we still need more listings desperately. We have lots more buyers than listings. So yeah, you're going to find it. Everyone, you get a house, you get a house, you get a house, look under your chair. Everyone's got a house. It's all good. It's all good. You just have to be a little realistic and the right thing will come. So, all right. Well, thank you guys for joining today. And yeah, we'll talk to you another week. Bye.